Hello everyone, and welcome to episode 10. Today is the day when we finally start laying down the foundations for our construction industry. I know. Better late than never, right? Since the area around the customs house is pretty much reserved for farming, we will instead build out the hub around the existing industries. We have a lot of new buildings to play around with in terms of storages and train stations, so it will be a bit more fresh compared to the previous two series. Since we will build this around the industries we already have, we will need to rethink how the railroad gets built up around there too. That's what will take up most of our time today, but of course, it's not the only thing we will do. We will get started on the main road upgrade leading back to the customs house, as well as doing more small jobs around the town. Before we get started, if this is not your first video from this channel, you already know what to expect. If you want to be kept up to date, please consider subscribing, and if you like what you see, leaving a like will also help letting me know what to focus on. But enough talking, let's get into it. I think we can afford to up the research speed on the radio propaganda tech. We are starting to drift into dangerously low loyalty at this point, so we really need to get it sorted. Next, how about we get started on the main road between the town and the border? Upgrading it will result in a bit of a slowdown on things, but nothing major I think. As usual, we need to place a bypass road, so trucks can still do their job without interruptions. Good thing the customs house has multiple entrances, we can use one of the extra ones while the main connection is being upgraded. The main hurdle is the river. To upgrade the entire road properly, we will need to build a temporary bridge. We cannot split the road right at the mouth of the existing bridge. After making sure that all the side roads still have access to the service path, we can start upgrading. And yes, in hindsight I really should have done this in stages, so we can still use the gravel roads while smaller sections are being paved. Anyways, time to place the temporary bridge. A simple wooden construction will be more than enough. It's the cheapest and fastest one we can build, so it will be perfect for this job. We will only upgrade those small segments in front of the original bridge once we have a second way across the river. Okay, I think it's time to get started on the construction yard. The first thing we need are the actual offices. The game now has bigger versions of this in the vanilla version, but I will be honest, they are a bit of a letdown for me. They take up an unreasonable amount of real estate, and once they are complete, we will also discover that they have misaligned parking spaces. I will need to soul searching between episodes, and decide if we should keep these, or just get the superior ones from the workshop. Anyways, we will place them here, in this big empty space near the railroad embankment. This area is too close to the industries for citizens to live in, and in turn, it's too close to the town to place polluting industries, so this seemed like a good compromise. I also put all the roads and driveways to high priority leading up to them, so we can get them done ASAP. We only need the important parts on high priority, everything else goes down to low. We can move on to the rest of the yard. How about we sort out the main storages next? We need a place for the structural materials, so we need an open storage, preferably with a railroad connection. Maybe just behind the food factory. Hooking things up to the railroad will be a bit of a hack job right now, we will deal with the proper one later in the episode, once I take a longer look at it, and decide that it's not up to snuff. We will go ahead and build asphalt roads going to these buildings right away. At this point, we might as well do it all, so we won't have to worry about upgrading things later. Next up, the warehouse for the components. Once again, we will place the one with the rail connection, so we can switch over to that form of transport as soon as we are able. Uh-oh, we have electricity issues. We need to take out another loan to keep financing things. Nothing crazy, just 400,000 will do. Next up, the gravel storage. We need that for a lot of things, including asphalt and concrete. We have a couple new ones to try out. We use the old ones a lot, let's give one of the new ones a try. Nothing overly big is necessary, something medium-sized will be plenty enough. I wasn't very confident we can fit all the secondary buildings in this area, so instead opted to place it near the incinerator. Also, it doesn't have a built-in train platform, so we need a station too. Another building that got some newer versions we can play with. That small train station was a bit comical, let's just go with something bigger, but not ridiculously huge. After this, we can start thinking about the next material, concrete. We already have the gravel on site, but we still need a cement storage silo. I think that should about cover the concrete. We have gravel and cement being fed into the production facility. The only oversight is that I didn't include a dry bulk train station to deliver the cement. I will need to check if I can squeeze it in somewhere later, but if not, we can just top it off with trucks. It won't be a deal breaker if we can't use trains. Okay, time to move on to asphalt. This one also needs gravel, as well as bitumen, a byproduct of the oil refinery. There is no need for the big liquid storage for this, one of the new ones with a much smaller footprint will be enough. Even this one might be a bit of an overkill. I have a feeling we could get away with just using the smallest one, but hey, at least this one will require less frequent deliveries. We just need a way to actually deliver the bitumen, and asphalt should be sorted. Alright. Before we move on to other things, we need to make sure we have everything covered. The easiest way to do this is to just check one of the existing construction offices, and go through the list of materials it needs. Almost forgot about the gravel pickup. Thankfully, we have just barely enough space left over to squeeze in the loading facility. I think we got a bit lucky there. As far as I can tell, we should have everything we need for a local construction industry. And with the wood bridge done, we can set those two small road pieces to be upgraded. We should still encourage the use of the main road whenever possible, so we should set up notifications on every segment, so we know when we can delete the service road pieces that correspond to it. And we have another house ready to go, except for the fact that it has no power. The substation we placed earlier only needs one more footpath segment to be finished, and then it can start building. Thankfully, the cables are already laid down, so we only need the building itself. And I already know that the houses furthest away from the city center are not going to be able to reach the shopping center, but upgrading a couple longer footpaths in town should be able to remedy that situation, so we also got started on that. Nice, we can now access the first construction office site. It will have enough room to house all our current machinery, so it will be nice to give them all a home that is less dirty. Well, we are almost done with the second driveway, but the workers went home a bit too early. And the first bus only has one person on board, but the second is full. Let's follow that one. We can go full speed ahead on both offices now. We are so close to the end of the propaganda research, I just set it to max speed, and rushed through the last couple percentage points. And the radio station itself is also close to completion. Well, relatively speaking, it's half done, but with local workers available, it will be a quick job when everything's delivered. I really wanted to see that residential substation be done, so I just hitched a ride on the dumper delivering the gravel for the footpath leading to it. Looking at the population statistics, I am a bit worried. It seems population growth is stagnating, despite the relatively okay happiness, and great overall health. And it won't help matters that we will see a pretty big death spike today. I will talk about that later, but my only explanation for the stagnation itself is the low loyalty. Apart from the crumbling houses having a lower housing quality, we are also really struggling with loyalty, which also impacts happiness. Anyway, we have access to the substation. We can tell the offices to get to work on it, and since it's already high priority, it shouldn't take too long to build it. At last, the radio propaganda tech is finished. As soon as the radio station is up, we can start fixing that whole loyalty issue we've been struggling with. I even opened the gates to the construction site to speed things up a little bit, but it's all up to the delivery trucks at this point. I think there is no reason not to continue researching. Our educated population is growing steadily at this point, so we can easily afford it. I think having access to the big monuments would be nice, so that's what we are going for next. First, we needed the concrete node unlocked. And tell you what, we have 2 universities, and as I've said, we can afford to not have every professor teaching all the time. We can get started on the distribution offices too. Hey, the industrial garbage collection is done. We can set up the containers for sorting, but it won't really take effect right now. We will need access to the relevant technology. And this is where I decided that the rail tracks around the industrial sector need some rethinking. The split-off point is pretty far away from certain stations, and we have splits in those branch lines which is highly inefficient. We really need to make sure we give every station an individual access to the local lane switch crossing. We have so many stations in the back, I think it won't hurt to have a double-track line going this way. Splitting the bitumen station off that line is not the best idea ever. I will change that later. This crossing seemed like a good idea at first, and if we kept the aggregate and liquid deliveries on the same branch, it would have made sense, but it will be removed in a bit. Yeah, we can definitely do better with those branches. Sadly, the turn is too tight to have yet another line split right after the switch. I suppose this could work. The stations are close enough to the crossing to justify extending the junction signal block all the way out there. The problem comes from the length of the warehouse platform. It's only 100 meters long at best. Let's try to find a way to make it longer, while also keeping things somewhat nice to look at. Definitely not a good looking arrangement. I guess for this particular place, we can get away with using a shorter platform. I kind of doubt we will see full-length boxcar trains come to pick up bread. All that's left is to fix the bitumen drop-off. Instead of splitting off from the aggregate station tracks, we should have a line coming out the other end, and connect up closer to the crossing. And pay attention to the population numbers. This is where that big death spike happened. I have a pretty good idea what the culprit is. I suspect it was the lack of food. We did check the shopping center a little while ago, and it was completely full, but I did keep the game running after this, and I did notice that the food deliveries were a bit messy. It's all about the factory throughput though. It has all the raw grain, and the trucks are more than enough to handle the throughput. It just doesn't make quite enough. In the next episode, we will need to set up a temporary distribution office, and set the customs house as a secondary food source. And we might need to invite some extra people to compensate. I did test things, and we will have a very slow increase in population if we left it alone, but as I've said, it will be extremely slow. Sadly, this also ate up all the remaining unhoused population, so even if we finish building new apartments, they will go unused for quite a while. Nice, the substation is ready to be built, we can open the gates, and let the local workers handle it. Anyways, it's kind of refreshing how much the game balance changed since the last time I played, in terms of population growth. It used to be extremely easy to keep people breeding like crazy. Now we will definitely need to take a look at the medical research that boosts the birth rate. And the substation is done. We can open that new apartment block, even though it will stay empty for a while. Either way, this is where I discovered the death spike. I was really confused what could have caused it. For a second I blamed loyalty for the lack of births, but then I noticed the large number of deaths. Since the storm already passed, I didn't see the real culprit. There was a small spike in pollution on the health tracker on the top, but it only affected a small number of people, and even those were barely bothered by it, so I guess it was just a garbage overflow somewhere. Since people were no longer starving, it didn't show up on the tracker anymore. But hey, at least the radio station was up and running. I set the schedule to be 30% cultural entertainment, and 70% all-out brainwashing. Seemed like a decent balance between enjoyment and loyalty boosting. At this point, I was still hunting for the cause of the death spike. The hospital sure seemed in good enough shape, it could easily offset the health effects of the pollution. And all the houses didn't complain about anything. Which is a bit weird, the complaints usually hang around for quite a while, so if people couldn't get food at the store, shouldn't the houses say that? Which opens the possibility for a second reason for the spike. Maybe it was just a natural age-related thing, where all the original immigrants died of old age. But I kind of doubt that. Anyways, the first construction office is finished. After telling it where to get its stuff, we could get started on reassigning the vehicles to it. And if you take a closer look at it, you will notice why I'm not a big fan. Those parking spaces are using space very inefficiently, and they are not lined up perfectly, they are all over the place. I am seriously considering replacing them with the workshop versions, that one is much more compact, and the parking spaces are also arranged neatly. Anyways, for today, we will keep using it. It has just enough space to accommodate all our current vehicles, except for the buses. Those can stay in their current temporary office, they will get a small one in town, near the bus station. Might as well send everyone over, including the dumpers, even though those are busy doing deliveries. Well, just when we start to take care of our loyalty problems, we start to get notifications about it. This will keep happening for a while, until loyalty settles into a decent equilibrium. As for our population, apart from the death spike, we are still have an overall positive gain in citizens, but it's incredibly slow. We have 2, maybe 3 choices. Either we invite 1 or 2 houses worth of foreigners, or we rush through a medical university in town to research the birth boosting tech. Or more likely, we do both. We are building so many extra buildings in town, we are starting to run out of workers in the industrial zone, which is very important to keep as fully staffed as possible, as our food troubles already showcased. Well, so close to the end of the episode, I didn't want to get started on anything big, so I just decided to do a little bit of decorating. Oh, right. This place. One of you have suggested that it would be a great place for some extra sports facilities, since it's right behind the school. I completely agree. We will place some outdoor fields here today, and once they are done, we will demolish the old ones behind the supermarket, and build something else there. Likely either a distribution office, or a construction one for the buses. Anyways, after this, it's all about placing trees. I'll be back for the outro monologue in a bit. So, let's talk about the next episode. Our biggest concern right now is the rate of the population growth. I would much rather have a lot of unhoused adults than have a worker shortage, so that's what we will focus on fixing in the next one. We will likely end up doing both a medical university for the research to boost the birth rate, as well as invite 1 or 2 houses worth of people. A combination of those should be enough to fix the issue. Also, we will set up a temporary distribution office, so we can supplement our domestic food production with a little bit of imports whenever necessary. Also, let's hope I don't forget to turn on the notification on the supermarket, in case it ever goes without a product, which include food. Maybe wouldn't hurt to have the same on the food warehouse. Could have been an early warning for us if I ticked that box. Oh well, hindsight being 2020, and all that. Anyways, if you haven't done it already, I'd love it if you subscribe to the channel, and leaving a like would also let me know that this video was worth making. If you feel that it was good enough, and you can afford it, please consider going to my Ko-fi page, which you can find in the description, and donate an amount that you feel is appropriate. And if you did like what you've seen, there should be links to some of my other videos and playlists on the screen. Thank you for your support, and I'll see you in the next one.